Hi guys, this is Leonard. We're having our fifth episode of Deck Tech here, and this time I'm not running mono red anymore because, frankly said, it sucks at the moment. Even though it has got some stronger cards in the form of Grim Lavamancer and so on, it's really not that great. And especially game 2 and 3, all the other decks just have such great sideboard options and hate against you that it's really not worthwhile playing, excepting goblins, of course. If you're playing hardcore goblins, you're still fine with mono red. But aside from that, I don't see the point, especially if they're running 4 timely reinforcements or something, or Core Firewalker or something. I really want access to a second color that gives me really good sideboard options and that really allows me to enhance my deck game 2 and 3. So with mono red, you have all these Manic Vandal, all these very mediocre cards that don't do much for your deck, that really don't change the direction or up the power level, and really very situational cards, and I don't see it happening. And I experimented with a lot of builds, all kind of builds from Mark Epstein to recent winners and so on. Really, like over 20 shrine builds and variations of it, various variations, and it really never worked out. Even though Chandra's Phoenix I kind of like, and it's still not the right environment to play Koth in the mono red deck, I think, at least not at the time. I mean, Oxid Ridge is probably better, but I don't really want to go the path of the Goblin Slinger here, and so no, I took a step back from mono red for a while now, and the step from mono red to Boros is actually not that huge, because we're still playing the fetches that we were playing in mono red. We are playing Searing Blaze in mono red, and we're still playing those fetches, those 8 fetches, and just plus Scalding Tarn and 2 Terramorphic. We are up to 14 fetches here, and that's due to our 1-drop, which is probably the best 1-drop if you're playing fetches. The best 1-drop ever in Standard. Steplings, probably not ever, but it's really the best 1-drop, and Steplings combined with Goblin Guide are really give you the best possible explosive start a deck can have, and that's what was and what Boros was renowned for. And in the Callblade times when Stoneforge Mystic was still unbanned, this was really the major contender against Callblade, though it failed to a degree. And I will come to the disadvantage of the deck later in a second. 26 lands, and even though we have a low curve, actually still playing 26 lands because of the 14 fetches, so we are probably fetching every other turn at least, and so really our mana base is not that great, and so we have to pump our lands here. Evenly distributed between plains and mountains, though you could go for one more plains because we have so many white sideboard options that require double white. But playtesting showed it's still fine, so this is what I'll go with for the moment. So the basic setup is, of course, good 1-drop. Good 1-drops. Spikeshot Elder as a 1-off is always great because of our equipment. 3 adventuring gears and 1 sort of War and Peace. So if you draw this guy, it's always going to be good. I mean, you don't want to have 2 probably because he's a bit rough on mana, but gives you something to do if you're drawing blanks and forms of lands only. So this guy's definitely in it. It has always deserved a spot in Boros, at least as a 1-off. So he's still in here. Played a Geopede, made a return, only playing 3 because I really wanted Stormblood Berserker in here as a 2-off. And you can turn on Bloodthirst pretty reliably with Goblin Guide and Steplings, but not that reliably that you can place 4 Stormblood Berserker and really refuse playing Play Repeat. No, that's not the case. 2 is, I think, the right number. And of course, the Hawks, just to refill your hand. I mean, that's the major purpose, refilling your hand. And if you happen to have out an adventuring gear or a sword, it's even better. But apart from that, just refilling your hand, we're fine with that. I think just having flyers is usually good enough. And yeah, in combination with equipment, it's really explosive. Play GP is still a good 2-drop, though I'm not gonna lie, it's really good. And that's why it's in here. First strike, yeah, it's all you're gonna say, and you can pump it. Yeah, some berserk can only be blocked by 2 creatures, so yeah, that's for most decks, that's for most not or unaggro decks, that's not an unblockable creature for the major part of the game. So that's pretty good. I also dialed back on white creatures, red creatures in general, because I really don't want to I really don't want to be flash freeze that much. And in game 2, this is even becoming rarer and rarer because we will have so many white creatures. But I'll come to that in a second. Dismember, 2 dismember, 1 Oblivion Rings, pretty standard. You want to have, quick removal, instant removal first, and if you're up against, I don't know, big creatures that you even Dismember can't remove, then you side on an Oblivion Ring Though Dismember works quite well with Squadron Hawk, trades with Consecrated Sphinx, for example, and yeah, and such. 2 Koths. Originally, I always played 4 Koths, even in Boros, but he's not that great, especially game 2 when they side in their core Firewalkers or something. And I really wanted to have a creature that really refuels my creatures in general on the board, And Emeria Angel is just pretty good. I mean, we are the landfall deck, and we should really be playing Emeria Angel from the get-go. So I'm doing this, and it has turned out pretty well so far. Gives you more flyers, and we have so many fetch lands that we can put to some good use that it really has paid off. Koth is still good, and I almost never side him out, except against I don't know, against aggro or so, because he really secures a good board position. He's simply a threat, board threat. Gideon Jura, because they play Gideon Jura, that's basically the reason. Also, of course, it's good against aggro if you ever get to a 5-drop and not getting killed before that. But yeah, that's what the sideboard is for. 3 core Firewalkers and 3 Marine Crusader. They're basically the replacement for Play Geopede. So if you're up against some red color deck, of course, core Firewalkers come in and Play Geopede come out, because it's so tedious to really keep them alive with fetch lands evading their removal. Core Firewalker is simply a better choice. There's no question, I think, about that. Mirror Crusader against black, also good against green, of course. Yeah, it has performed pretty well. I would not want to miss him, really. So second Gideon Jura against Ergo or against big fatties. Cunning Spark Mage is good against Hot. I think just bolting their little guys, the Birds of Paradises, their Lotus Cobras, and also not the worst against against Callblade, of course. Combust is for the Splinter Twin matchup, but of course you also side this in for Callblade and side out the Dismembers. So these go in and these go out usually. And another Oblivion Ring goes in because of Consecrated Sphinx, which can be a pain. Active Aggression against Valkyrie usually. Yeah, Time Reinforcement. I also thought this would be great against not only against aggro but also against Callblade to just refill or refuel creatures on the board and perhaps gain life or so. Probably gain life is probably very unlikely with this deck, but at least gain some creatures after they Day of Judgment you, so that's not the worst. So that's basically the deck. Advantages can be very explosive, very hard to deal with, even if they have timely reinforcements. Disadvantages, clearly, there's some inconsistency with the deck, some basic paradoxic inconsistency, and that is being at one point in a game you really only want to draw spells because you've got nothing out on the board or so, but then at another point you only may want to draw land. So the same thing can't happen at the same time, so either you're drawing lands or spells, and it's really a paradox with the deck, because you really want two different things almost all the time. So if you have an adventuring gear out and your creatures are fine, of course you really want to draw land to really turn this on and this on, which happens. I mean, this is really a strong, powerful deck, and even if you don't draw land, you're not that badly off, because you still have got Stormbird Berserker, and post board it gets better with different creature types. But really that's a paradox with Boros, and it's always been like this. So you got to be aware of this. This deck also needs a bit of land management, to a higher degree than a Bloodghast deck, for example, because you want to play. If you have to secure your steplings or your planet GPs from, I don't know, from a Pyroclasm, for example, you really have to, or from any kind of red removal, you really have to, Forked Bolt, for example, you have to make sure to play Marsh Flats first and then your steplings, or Marsh Flats first and then your plated GP, to just be able to fetch the marsh, to crack the fetch in time, in response to red removal, for example. So, but that's basically the basic rundown. We'll be running against a clientmate of mine. He's been playtesting Patrick Chapin's Rugpod list pretty heavily. So we see how this turns out. Usually always win this 2-0, this match, and I expect to win this one as well. But nonetheless, Rugpod is pretty strong and one of the best decks right now. Beating Callbait easily and so on, but even this does pretty well against Callbait, and so yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with the deck so far, and yeah, let's do the match.